Good morning, everybody. Just hit me this morning that I like seeing you all much more after wins. It's not even close. I didn't even enjoy seeing you last week. So I know that's news to you, but that was it. It's also good, and I reminded our staff this morning. This time last year, we were 2-3. So we're sitting here at 4-1 and getting better, and that shows progress in our program, and that's what we want to do. Really happy for the win on Saturday. Dave Dorn's doing an outstanding job at State. They've got a lot of injuries. You lose your quarterback, it makes it tough for you. And I thought they came in and were ready to play, and we made some plays and got some turnovers, and the thing got out of hand. But Dave's had injuries in the last couple of years, like Coach Fedora had here in his last couple of years, and it's just unfortunate. So, but they're still 4-2 and doing really, really well. Players of the game, defensively, Chaz Surratt. Offensively, Javonte Williams. And in the kicking game, Ben Kiernan, because he punted 2 balls inside the 20 and really helped us with field position. But most of the guys played well throughout the game. Felt like that started out the second phase of the season well, because we've got rivalry month here, as we've got NC State, which is an emotional game. We're going to have Virginia's an emotional game, Duke and Wake Forest. All those will be really, really emotional games. So it'll be a telling moment for our team to see if we can get ready to play and play hard and be focused for those 4 weeks for sure. Saturday, we were able to play 66 players, and that really helps us. We have to start developing more depth with our defense and our young guys, and a lot of those guys got to play, and you develop depth, but it also helps team morale. Offensively, we were very balanced, and that's something that we want to be. Take what they're giving us, and I thought the plans were good on both sides of the ball. For only the second time in school history, we had 200-yard-plus rushers, 100-yard-plus receiver, and a 200-plus-yard passer. And I think 93 against Maryland was the other time that happened. But I also felt like that modern-day defense is different. People are giving up a lot of points. It's nearly like if you force a turnover or force somebody for a field goal, you've won, because offenses are taking advantage of defenses, especially with the RPOs and the screen game the way it is, that you can block downfield and throw behind the line of scrimmage. But the RPOs are such a disadvantage for defenses. So I was really, really proud of our defense holding NC State to 34 yards rushing and forcing 4 turnovers. And those two things come together. When you've got somebody in a second and long and a third and long, you get more tip balls. You get more pressure and strips on the quarterback. And those are things that we haven't been doing very well coming into this ball game. We'll talk about Virginia in a second. Also, the fact that we had Bo Corrales out and Patrice Renee out, and Emory Simmons and Day Hollins stepped up, shows that we're making progress in our program as well. Both of those guys played really well. And you've got to have guys with COVID and with injuries. You put yourself in a position where you can get yourself in trouble for sure. Special teams, it's the best we've played. Jonathan Kim has been amazing kicking the ball out on the kickoffs. It's been near automatic. Kickoff return on the onside kick, we covered the ball and did a good job at that point, which led to points. The punt return, we had a +8 return, but there's some others there. We're so close. We've got to get Daz open in the wide open field with our punt returns. Grayson Atkins missed the 22-yard field goal, but he came back and had the 40-yarder right before the half, and had a long one at the end of the game, the 34-yarder, and we actually kicked that just to have him continue to gain confidence, because we're going to need his kicks as we go through. And he's got such a strong leg that he gets it up so high that we've got to get him on track. He missed the first 2 at as I've said before, and he made 11 in a row. So hopefully he's gaining his confidence as we're moving forward. Someone had asked about how we choose our uniforms. That's done by the leadership committee. We have a 23-player leadership committee, and they meet every Tuesday or Wednesday, and they decide which uniforms they're going to wear. That I have absolutely no input. Don't question what they want. I just want them to play good in whatever they wear. So, and I think they've already got them picked for the rest of the year. Time management, some questions came up at Florida State the other night on how we're handling time management right before the half. Time management changed when the Butch Davis, North Carolina, Tennessee play happened in the Music City Bowl, and you get a 10-second runoff. So you have to keep a timeout in your pocket as a head coach. So you really have 2 per half. You don't have 3. Because if you don't have a timeout and you have a 10-second runoff, then and you've got 9 seconds left to kick a field goal to win the game's over. So number one, you got 2 timeouts instead of 3. And then you have to make a decision. Do you want to use the clock play or let 15, 20 seconds run off? And those are decisions you have to make because you're going fast anyway. And what I like to do is always keep my timeouts in the pocket. I like to have them because if you've got 2 timeouts at the end of the half, or even 3 with your 10-second runoff, then you've got a chance to do that. So it really worked and gave us enough time at Florida State. We just didn't hit the passes, but we had time to score. And the other night we took it less than a minute. We took it down the field and had a chance to hit Michael Carter for the touchdown, and we overthrew it with 4 seconds left, and we kicked the field goal. So that's just the difference in the way time management used to work and the way it works now. Some people would say, use your timeout, use it fast. I don't like to do that. I'd rather hold them as long as we can and make sure that we have them at the end. And like I said, we've won a lot of close games, and at Florida State it worked, and the other night it worked. So I like the way we're doing it. Start looking at the game specifically. We rushed for 326 yards, held them to 34. Normally, when you rush for more yards than the opponent, especially with a separation like that, you've won the game. We had 84 plays to 63. That's 21 more plays, which wears them down and keeps their defense on the field a lot longer. We've got more depth on our offense than we do our defense. So when our offense stays on the field, it helps our defense, obviously. When you do that, you probably have more penalties because penalties are usually more offensive than defensive. So with 80-something plays, you're going to have some penalties. We dominated time of possession nearly 40 minutes to 20. I thought a huge improvement of this team this year. We had 5 red zone touchdowns in 7 trips, and all 5 were runs. And that's something we weren't doing well last year. It was an emphasis for this year. And we really feel good about that moving forward. We also forced 4 turnovers, but that's because we had them in 2nd long and 3rd and long. And that's what happens when you stop the run on first down. The punting was good because we punted it inside the 20 twice, and that really helped us for field position. We only missed 12 tackles on Saturday. We broke 27 tackles. And that was a huge differential as well. Part of that's because we were on the field 84 plays compared to them. Still had too many penalties. We'll see how many were penalties and were not after we get the report back from the ACC office this week. But we had 9 for 70. Again, I can't tell you all when we get them back what was called and properly and what wasn't, but we always look at that, and really and truly it's not what was called, it's what was called properly. When you start trying to evaluate your team, and then you go to each player and try to make sure that he knows exactly why and how he did it. You go back over it on video and let him see it. 3rd downs, we were 7 of 12 because we were able to run the ball and be balanced. We held them for 4 for 10 on 3rd downs. They were 1 for 2 in touchdowns on the in the red zone as well. Last year's Virginia game, it was such a close game. The difference was Bryce Perkins. He ran for 112 yards of their 134, but he threw for 383 yards. And again, the biggest difference where they were 5 for 5 4 of those 5 in the red zone were touchdowns. We were 0 for 3 in the red zone. And then we were 1 for 3 with a field goal, but 0 for 3 on touchdowns. On fourth downs, we were 0 for 3, but both teams had it. We were 7 of 13 on third downs. The yardage was pretty close, 539 for us, 517 for them. There were no turnovers in the game. They did fake a punt that caught us off guard on a fourth down. So it was a heck of a ball game, and you got to give them credit for hanging in there and winning. And obviously they won the Coastal Division. Bronco is once again a dear friend of mine. We were on the AFCA board together for many years. I coached against him at Brigham Young twice when we were at Texas, and then last year here. He's probably the most upbeat person I've ever been around. He stays up and picks those kids up, and they've had they got a tough straw on schedules. They've played at Miami, they've played at Clemson, and they've played at Wake Forest, who's obviously really improving with their win last weekend over Virginia Tech. 8 o'clock game, we didn't handle it well at Florida State. We're getting up at 5 in the morning. We meet at 6:30. We practice from 8 to 10 every morning. So the 12 o'clock games work really, really well for us. 8 o'clock's late. So we're going to have to handle that situation better this weekend than we handled it when we played against them earlier. But they got 8 starters back on defense from the team that we played last year. They lost their quarterback. We'll let Jay and Phil talk to you more about their personnel. But this will be a fight. It'll be an absolute fight. It should be a great game. Questions?
All right, thanks, Coach. We will begin today, and as a reminder, use the raise hand function if you have questions for Coach Brown, and we'll begin with Jacob Turner.
Hey, Mac, you guys are at the midpoint of the season right now. Just curious on your overall thoughts of where your team's at and the progress you guys have made so far.
I'm so proud of these guys, Jacob, because they're doing everything we ask them to do. I thought I've tried to figure out what happened at Florida State, and I think what happened is we were ready to play or you couldn't have come back. We're in shape. They were excited, but we weren't focused, and we didn't handle the momentum changes early in that game very well. So they block a punt, and then they score on the first play. They block another punt because we're kind of lazy and we push a guy. We're just not as focused as we needed to be. We throw an interception for a touchdown, which we just don't do very often, and then let them score on 5 quick plays at the end of the half. So in looking at it, what we tell the guys, what we tell you is it just didn't look like we were focused because we dropped passes at the end of the game, and we just didn't do the things you have to do to win. So that'll be the big question on Saturday night. We've got a 4-game stretch here, NC State being one of those 4 games where the other team's going to have a lot of excitement. Are we going to match that excitement and enthusiasm? And that's a question. Are we going to play well at 8 o'clock on Saturday night when we didn't at Florida State? Those are questions we have to answer about our team. We're better than we were last year at this point. We're making progress. We see a lot of good things that are coming. We haven't stopped running quarterbacks. Virginia's going to run their quarterback, period. Are we going to stop that better? That's just something we have to do. We missed fewer tackles Saturday. Are we getting better, or were we off the field more? So you'll have to overcome adversity more on the road than you do at home. Are we ready to do that? And I don't know. We didn't play great at Boston College. We didn't play well at Florida State. We are 3-0 at home. So this is a good challenge for us to see if we can go to Charlottesville at night and play better than we have in a road game.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
All right, let's go over to Mike Barber.
Morning, Mac. I wanted to ask you specifically on Virginia's defense, number 11, Snowden, and 7 on the other edge. What do you see from that duo, and do you see them kind of getting into form a little here as the season goes on?
Yes, Virginia's got great height. Bronco's done a good job. What is 6'7"? I think is you've got Xander at 6'3", 230, a middle linebacker that can really run. You've got Noah Turner at number 7, 6'5". You've got Bernie at 6'4", and then you've got Snowden at outside linebacker, 6'7". So they do a really good job of showing multiple defense, getting their hands up and batting down a lot of balls. But Bronco's done a really good job of finding guys that fit his university and fit his scheme. And they play so hard. It's one thing about his teams, every time I've ever seen them on the field, even when I was in TV, they're going to play hard every week. And that's a trait of a great coach to get them to do that. And we'll have to match that intensity.
And you just hit on this with your answer to Jacob's question, but I'm curious throughout your career, what you found is the secret or the key to getting a team to be consistent. I think you've had 3 seasons with 1 loss. I think you obviously had the undefeated season. Is there a trick to getting a team to be consistent?
Mike, I think it is depth. It's quality depth because you're not tired. And last year, if we had Aaron Crawford play 92 plays or something at Pittsburgh, he's going to be tired the next week, and Strobridge and Fox. And that's why it was good that we were able to play 66 guys. I think maybe the most one of our defensive guys plays with 42 plays out of the 61. So, but I think that's it. Coach Broyles was doing a ABC TV game when I was the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. And he said, son, let me tell you something now. I said, Coach, how good do you think we can be looking at us? And he said, to have a successful season, we were all playing 11 games at that time. He said, you're going to play hard about 4 times a year. And he said, you're going to have to be better than the other team 7 times. And you're going to have to win some close games. So I don't understand that, Mike, still after 40-something years in this business. I don't know why that's so hard, but it is. And then to figure out, I was mad at our guys at Florida State. I told you all they didn't play hard. Well, they did. They weren't focused. And what's the fine line between being focused and being ready to play? And I don't know. It gets confusing. So, but I do know that quality depth is a key to winning college football games, and even more so this year with COVID. But let's throw the COVID out for the year. Injuries, banged up, tired, all of those things matter when you're trying to play every week. And there's no question. We get up some days, all of us, we don't feel as good as we do on other days. There's days you all aren't as excited about writing your articles as you are other days. There's games you come to that you're flat. I feel like when I walk into stadiums sometimes, this bunch isn't very good. What am I doing? And then they're playing their tail off, and I'm standing there wondering why the players are flat. And I feel the same way. So usually if the fans come flat to the game, or you or I come flat to the game, why would we expect those kids not to be flat? I mean, it's just the way it is. And about the time you look at who would have thought Wake Forest would have beaten Virginia Tech last week and held their great running back to 64 yards rushing? Who would have thought Florida State would go get dominated at Louisville? I mean, you start looking at games. The other thing's confusing to me right now is one game doesn't seem to be leading into another. Unless you're Alabama and you're Clemson, you're Ohio State, you're Georgia, you're those teams with so much depth you can play every week. Other than that, all of us, it is a crapshoot every week. You just don't know who's going to show up. So we say, it's a shocker they got upset. It's really not. It's happening every weekend, more than ever before. One game doesn't carry over to the other. And I think that's what all of us are trying to figure out how to do. You got to work them hard enough and hit enough to get them ready to be physical and tackle. You got to keep them healthy enough and fresh enough to be ready to play. I mean, it's these are hard jobs.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, let's go over to JB Ricks.
Morning, Coach. Thanks for taking out the time. I wanted to ask you about the transition of keeping your players' focus level up this week compared to coming off a loss to Florida State. It's easy to get their attention after a loss, but after a dominating win over your rival with still so much for this team and this program to accomplish, what's the difference in keeping their focus this week compared to last week after the loss to the Seminoles?
JB, it's a great question, and it's interesting because after a loss, everybody helps me get them back up because everybody's critical of about everything. It's interesting. You have 7 to 10 plays that make a difference in every game. If you lose, everybody over gripes about those 7 or 10. If you win, everybody kind of forgets them, gripes a little bit, but they're so happy that we won, they forget all that. So we had this discussion after practice yesterday. So after you beat Virginia Tech, everybody's patting you on the back and hugging you and talking about how great you are, and you listened to all of it and didn't play and got beat. So we can try it again if you want to. We can walk around, feel good about ourselves, or we can do what we say we're supposed to and put this thing away. I said after the victory meal on Sunday night, brag on yourself, enjoy it, have your highlights, text your buddies, talk to your parents, and have a blast when you go to bed tonight. And you can enjoy it till you go to bed. When you get up the next morning, and that's what's tough about them having press conferences on Tuesday, because you'll ask them about NC State more than you'll ask them about Virginia. But I said, talk about Virginia. NC State does not matter anymore. That one's gone. It's done for a year. We can't do anything about that game for another year. You need to focus on Virginia only. It's a one-game season. And I said, if we can't do that, we'll be disappointed again on Saturday night like we were 2 weeks ago. And then we'll be saying, what happened? Well, we know what happened. You didn't practice well. You didn't focus. You let the win beat you the next week. And you can't let a loss beat you twice, but you also can't let a win beat you the next week. You have got to learn from it because we have mistakes we can still fix. And then you've got to move on.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, Andrew Jones, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, you're at the midpoint of the ACC schedule. I was just kind of curious, what part of your team, what position group perhaps, are you most pleased with their growth from when fall camp started to where you are right now?
Andrew, I think I'm most pleased with the offensive line. They had the least depth. They had the most question marks. You take a guy like Brian Anderson against McNeil on Saturday, who's 320. I mean, that's a load, and we helped them some in there, but those guys are playing with confidence. They really feel good about their aggressiveness right now. There are very, very few mental mistakes. We still had 3 sacks on Saturday, and I was hard on the staff about that yesterday, and really one's at quarterback, and one might have been a missed assignment up front. So we're doing better in those areas. But if we can continue to run the ball like we're running it, we have a chance every week. And that with the way Sam plays, Sam's really good, and his ability to run now is much better. I don't want him blocking. That's everybody said, "Oh God, Sam's out there blocking." I said, "No, man, I got plenty of blockers. I don't want Sam leading on ISOs. We need Sam throwing, but he's running really well, and he's being smarter, and he's getting down better. So that really adds a strong element to the offense that we didn't have last year, because the running quarterback is really, really difficult to stop in modern day football."
On the flip side, what position group part of your team concerns you the most now here at the midpoint?
Probably the secondary, because we've had so many injuries there. We had the opt-outs, we've had the injuries, and we those are all good players, and we're going to be great in the secondary. But there's such a lack of experience back there that we're still losing our eyes some and leaving guys wide open. We still have a bust every now and then, and we're still not playing the ball as well as we could at some time. They made some great deep throws Saturday that we've got to break up.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, Ross Martin, go ahead.
Hey, Mac, you mentioned, building quality depth and whatnot. You played a lot of players on defense and on offense, but focusing on the defensive line, maybe some secondary players. Which players stood out to you among the freshmen and young players that played in the second half versus on Saturday versus NC State?
I would say that, gosh, there's a lot of them, but I would think, Ross, probably Miles Murphy made some real physical plays up front. There's one, if you go back and look at it, and you'll have probably seen it, where he chases the ball all the way across the field and makes the tackle himself at 300 and something pounds. So, and he had a hurt hand. So he had his hand in a ball and still made plays. Des Evans, every snap he takes, he's 254 pounds now. He came in at 240. So every snap he takes, he's getting better. He's rushing the passer better, but he sprinted like a dart coming out of a cannon to get on that fumble. And that'll give him more confidence as he goes through. Clyde Pender made a couple of athletic plays inside, and Clyde hadn't really played any because he broke his hand early and didn't have a chance to play. Tony Grimes played 15 snaps outside of special teams, and we were playing off. So there's some balls that were thrown underneath him, but Tony, here's a high school senior. It still amazes me. I have to hit myself when I think about, come on, Tony. Yeah, well, he's a senior in high school. He shouldn't even be out there. But all those guys for the young ones jumped out. The young offensive line got to play 10 or 11 snaps at the end. And but I think and the coordinators can help you more with that. But just in talking about it with the staff yesterday and in looking at the video a number of times, those are plays that just stood out for me.
Great. Thank you. That was great.
Thank you, Ross.
All right, let's go over to CL Brown.
Hi, Mac. Kind of diving back into building depth a little bit. When you want to build depth, do you go with young guys who have proven in practice to be ready and you feel like they can contribute, or are you like, they got to get ready at some point, you throw them to the fire and see what happens?
I think it's a yes and yes. You use guys that you feel like have potential to really help you down the road. But weirdly enough, CL, and we talk about this every week, we're trying to win games while we're trying to get guys ready to play and to learn how to play. And that's why you usually play the young ones between the 220s. And in some cases, don't put them all in at the same time. Let a guy get some plays with the older ones around him so he can't mess it up. But hopefully after this year, we won't be doing that as much. That's what we missed in spring practice, and that's what we missed with the Charlotte game early. But we were so fortunate in a rival game to be able to play a lot of guys that maybe this will help those guys get over the hump where they can play quality snaps on Saturday night. Because Jaleel Taylor played really well, but he only played 21 plays, where at Florida State he probably played 60. So if we can keep fresh guys in the game at all times, that's really going to make us better, especially on defense, because those guys have to chase somebody down every play. And because we played more people and the defense wasn't out there as much, we didn't have loafs. And that's the other thing that young guys have a tendency to do is they don't know how to play hard every snap. So you have more loafs when they're out there. And then you have to point it out, but they have to play to point it out and say, we're not going to let you play if you keep doing this. You give us 100%. So I think you're right on. It's a tough call. Who do you play? How often, how many plays do you play them? And when do you put them in the game where you can get them experience and not lose the game?
And is this with a vision that one season, maybe next year, maybe 2 years into your tenure, that you want essentially all juniors and seniors on the field? Like you get to a point where you're not relying on any young guys and everybody has that experience?
No, you still take your great players when they come in as freshmen and they can play, but you're not. We played 8 of them at one time, 8 freshmen on Saturday. I think we had out there on defense in a package. You don't want to do that. That's just too many, and especially without spring practice, without much summer work, and without other games under their belt. But we'll bring guys in like if you were going to play if Des Evans was coming in next year, there's no doubt we'd be working him to get him ready to play. And most of these guys, if they're great players, CL, you've only got them 3 years because they're going to go to the NFL. So you don't have long, man. That 3 years goes really quickly. And when the NCAA says this year doesn't count, well, it does to the NFL. They may be freshmen again next year, but they're 2 years into their 3-year time if they're good enough to leave and make some money after 3 years. And in our program, we will always want them to leave if they feel like they can make a whole lot of money or if they want to. I mean, those are, we would never ask somebody to stay.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, Coach, last one comes from Jared Fialco. Jared, go ahead.
Mack, following up on what Andrew and Jacob kind of broached with it being the midway point of the season, just curious as to your thoughts in general about this whole pandemic experiment, how it's worked, if it's gone better than expected, and in a time too where you've seen a resurgence of cases and we've almost approached record highs for the states and really across the country. How have you guys made it work to the extent that you have?
That's another great question, Jared. I didn't think we'd be playing at the point when I heard the Big Ten and the Pac-12 opted out. That was probably as down as I've been because what do you tell your players? What do you tell your staff? Because when those two said we're not going to play and there's medical reasons, basically, I thought we wouldn't play. But I had to keep our guys up and I had to keep our guys going. And then you go through and everything's going well. And then our students come back and that's not working and we send them home. I'm not sure if we'll get to play without students here. And then the NCAA says we're not going to let them have championships on campus. I thought, well, does that shut us down? And then people start having games postponed because of COVID positives. So to me, it's been an absolute miracle. And a lot of smart people have worked really hard to make this thing work. And I think we're fortunate every game we get to play. I even told the players after Florida State, it was disappointing, but we got to play. And we need to really embrace every opportunity to play. Even now, will we get to play the rest of the games this season? Who knows? Well, I hope so. And I mean, very honestly, we've been getting our test back at about 9 o'clock on Friday night. And I was so relieved when I got all negative on Friday night, because that means our coaches are all going to get to coach. It means our players are all going to get to play. So then you got to go back and just worry about the normal coaching and trying to win the game. But your question is right. Even the news with the quarterback at Wisconsin and what's going to happen with, it seems like there's a spike across the country again. So this will be really interesting, the latter part of the season. And what I told our guys is if you want to play, just do your absolute best to keep your risk really low. And I'm trying to do the same thing. I mean, you see, I have this thing everywhere I go. So, and try to keep it on the sideline. But I think you're right on. I applaud John Swofford, the ACC group, the presidents, chancellors in this league, and athletics directors, because without them all staying strong and being patient and wanting to make this work, we would not be playing college football right now. It was a whole lot easier back in the summer to just say, no, forget it. And it's definitely safer for the young people to play. It's definitely, their mental health is much better, that they've got direction, they've got routine, they've got organization, and I worry about a lot of the kids out there that don't. It's better for us. You all have something to cover. I have something to do. It's great for people that are watching because it's a distraction for them and all the horrible things that are happening out there in our country right now with their lives. Jared, I feel like we're really fortunate that we've lost one game that we will get to replay in our first 5 here. And in fact, somebody came up yesterday and they were talking to me at practice, and one of the coaches said, "That's not about COVID, is it?" I said, no, it was actually just a question about the game. So everybody is on edge, and I think we're all going to stay that way till this season's over. This is one that there'll be a lot of books written about, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Mac.
Thank you all. Have a great week, and I will see you on Wednesday.
You're on mute, Mark.